I have a few more questions, but does anyone in the audience have any questions? Right there in the middle?
You were talking a little earlier about like how 2 weeks of rehearsal for a film was like pretty, you know, we felt almost too much. Can you talk a little bit, since you've done so much theater and film, what do you feel is like, a lot of film directors don't do rehearsal at all, or very, very little. Where do you feel it's good, and where do you feel it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I do think there's some, ideally there was some middle ground. I mean, I used to always think, coming from the theater, I used to think, oh man, you can't have too much rehearsal. You kidding me? Let's rehearse for a month, let's rehearse. But the reality is with film, there's something about it. The medium is so different from theater that what ultimately happens is, you know, you rehearse it, let's say you rehearse it, you're given all this time to rehearse it. But what ultimately happens is, so now you think, okay, we got that, we've done this, and that. Then the day of that shoot, that you're supposed to do that scene, shows up, and invariably it's like, oh, this is nothing like the rehearsal. Oh, what? It's raining outside. We decided we have to do the scene like in the car instead of on the football field. And also, by the way, this is, you know, it's night instead of day, and everything, you find out that everything has changed. So it's like, and actually I've been thinking about changing these lines too. So it's like, so ultimately I have found that there's this maybe a couple days, if you can get it, is fine. Or even rehearsing on the fly isn't bad. I was lucky enough to direct a film of a Mammoth script called Lake Boat, which, you know, got minimal release, but we had a good time making it. It was a great experience. And what I did was I allowed rehearsal time each day into the schedule. In other words, I would be able to take the time in the course of, before shooting the scene, rehearsing it a few times with the actors, letting everybody kind of feel comfortable with it, and then do it. You know, just kind of do it. And that seems to work well. You know, yes, and again, I've worked with Woody Allen. I've done 2 films for him, no rehearsal, none. In fact, no direction. You basically get on the set and say, okay, action. And he doesn't even watch. He puts the earphones on and walks away and listens to it. And he doesn't even look at what you've done. And then he'll say cut, and then he doesn't allow video replay on any of his sets or anything. And so he doesn't know what he shot. They shoot almost always in master. There's never any, he's not shooting any coverage. So you have to wait till the next day when he looks at the dailies to find out if he likes it. And if he doesn't like it, you just go back and you reshoot the whole day again. And that happened time and again and again and again. I mean, I shot one scene in Alice 6 different days. And each time you get nervous, you think it's you. You're always thinking, Woody, what can I do different? Well, nothing. Well, why are we doing it again? Well, I looked at the dailies and that banister was in the shot. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't you look through the goddamn camera? You know, you save us all a lot of aggravation here. But I'm not about to give Woody Allen directing tips. He seemed to have done very well without my help. So you just never know. Everybody's gonna be different. So as an actor, you have to be prepared for anything. Hey, the director wants to take a month to direct it. Okay, let's go. Let's do it. You know, if it's gonna say no rehearsals, rehearsals rather, then you go with that. But my feeling is if you can get a little in there, then beyond that, it's almost like there is something to be said about catching that spark in the bottle. In other words, you know, it's not like a play. It's not like, you know, when I did Glengarry, 6 months into the run, I felt I was discovering things. Shooting a film is something else. You kind of, you grab that moment, and that moment usually comes much more immediately. You know? So there is a, each thing's going to be a little different.
Another question? Right there, second row.
Hi. I'm a huge House of Kings fan, and all of the other films you've been in, and all the PTA films that you've been in, and all narration, for Brothers Bloom, and Alice, and all the names or the films you named. But I have a question for you as actors. When you have a script and you go over it as much as you can and try to really immerse yourselves in it, when you come to shooting at one point and you read a line and it just doesn't really feel like it works, like you ad-lib, how do you know that instantaneous moment, like it just pops out? Like as a director, I'm the young director. I just know a shot that just doesn't work. So, for an actor, what is it? And also, may I get a picture after?
Well, it reminds me of one line which you might remember from House of Games after the water pistol scene in when we first have Lindsay in the room. I have to say the line, "Ask her, is she mad?" And for whatever reason, I just could not do this the way David wanted me to do it. And so he made every actor on set say, "Ask her, is she mad? Ask her, is she mad?" And I would say, "Ask her, is she mad?" "No, ask her, is she mad?" And every actor would say, "Ask her, is she mad?" I mean, this went on for, it seemed to me, days. Probably was 15 minutes, but I'd never gotten a line reading. I never acted in a film. I thought I was saying exactly what he wanted, and everybody was saying it. And then he had variations on the line, which I can't repeat for you here today, which made it even weirder.
I think the point Ricky's making, though, is a good point, and it addresses your question, is that in theater, film really is a director's medium, bottom line. Theater, once I hit that stage, I'm in charge.
Absolutely.
And the point is, if I want to try something on Tuesday that I didn't do on Monday, I do it, or Wednesday or Thursday. So you have that flexibility. Film, I could say it 15 different ways, but unless I'm sitting in the editing room with the guy, he's going to pick that one that he wants. He'll get what he wants. So when you ask, when do you get that moment when you think, it's right for you? Sometimes you don't. But if the director tells you, it's okay, I got it, that's what I wanted, that's your job.
It's just trust.
It is trust.
Yeah.
Even when I worked with Don Amici on the Other Mammoth film, things changed. Now here's Don Amici, one of the greatest, actors who had so much experience. I mean, he's this great actor. And he even told me, he says, Joe, he says, I found out years ago, I always thought that I always knew what was best. And so I got a little cocky. I've been in the business a long time. So the director would say, I got it. And then I'd say, well, no, I need another one. I don't feel that was right. And I would do it again. And then I would say, that's the one. And the director would acquiesce and say, oh yes, that's very good, Don. And of course, the director would use the cut that he wanted. But Don says, invariably, the director was right. In other words, he said in that medium, he always felt, of course, he always worked with pretty good guys, pretty good directors. He felt that the director's seeing it through his eyes. He's the guy that really is going to put it all together. He knows what the whole picture is. And our job really is to kind of give them what they want. And so sometimes you don't necessarily feel like, ooh. Like I said, there were moments in this film. Like I said, when I did that whole speech about the tell, I never felt really in control. I never felt comfortable with that speech. But, I think it ultimately, and then later on people would say to me, hey man, the way you did that speech was so cool. What were you thinking? And I'm thinking, I don't want to say fear was what I was thinking. But, something cool, like, oh yeah, right, I had it all. So, as a director, I mean, that's your job. Your job is to be able to tell the actor, if you're getting what you want, right or wrong, that's really, that's why you're the director. You have that power.
Yeah, Dave is a wonderful gift giver, and at the end of all of our projects, he would always have these wonderful little gifts for the crew and the cast. And I remember at the end of House of Games, which was the first film that I did with him, he came over and he presented me with this little Tiffany's box, and I opened it up, and it was a beautiful tie clasp, and on it it said, "Ask her, is she mad?"
You've both worked with David in the last few years. What's it like working with him now versus when you worked with him in this first film 25 years ago? Any difference?
No. I mean, it's funny. He and I are 2 weeks apart in age. So, I mean, we always had a little birthday thing to each other every year. We're both in November. And it's like, and it's so weird. Because, I mean, I remember, celebrating like our birthdays in our 30s, and then in our 40s, and then in our 50s. And then the last time I wrote him, I said, Dave, I don't know about you, but when I walked into Social Security and had to sign up for Medicare, my only thought was, as I looked around, how the fuck did I get in here? So really, not much has changed. You know, he's, you know, you change. I mean, everybody changes. I mean, he's grown as a writer and as a human being, and hopefully I have too, and as Ricky has, as you all have. So, but beyond that, you know, some things don't change all that much. And he's, you know, he's. I feel blessed. You know, I've always felt blessed to have had that our two worlds collided when they did, and God willing, to continue to do so.
Yeah, I found his last few films, it seems like he's kind of backed off on dialogue somewhat, and he's gotten much more, you know, visual and much less. There's almost no exposition in like Red Belt and Spartan.
Right. Well, he never. I mean, he always hated exposition anyway. So I mean, if, you know, I think his goal is ultimately write a play that's got like 4 words in it, you know, and lasts 10 minutes. That would be the ultimate Mammoth play, you know. But and yet be brilliant. Be like, that's his goal. But yeah. But so.
Well, I've had this odd experience of having him direct my sleight of hand shows as well, which are so completely different than being in films of his. And it starts with a medium which he doesn't particularly claim to have mastered. He I think, would have loved to have been a sleight of hand artist in his life, but we once made a deal that I would teach him some sleight of hand if he taught me some things about acting, and he quickly realized that he wasn't prepared for the concept of learning sleight of hand, but yet he was an amazing director for it. So he directed 3 of my one-man sleight of hand shows, and it was kind of an incredible experience to have someone who wasn't well-versed in it, but who was able to help me present things in a way that was so different and so much better than anything I'd done before. And that seems to continue.